Okay, welcome back to my YouTube video. It's been a few months since my last upload, and this is the beetle now. So I didn't film it getting painted. A few things got in the way and stuff like that. But I've got myself a new GoPro, which I'm filming with now. And yeah, so since my last video, I've obviously gotten it painted. I put it on the floor pan. It's not fully fastened down. Guard beading and guards are on, bonnet's on, little bits of trim wear. The wiper motor we had converted to 12 volt using a late model one and changed a few things. Inside, steering column is in. That's the collapsible steering column that I cleaned up out of a later model car. Brake lines are run, the rubber seal under the heater channel is in. What else? Some of the wiring's in. Obviously the wheels are on, you probably saw that on the floor pan. In the back, nothing has really happened. Obviously got a bit of the wiring in, stuff like that. So in today's episode, I just want to get back to filming and get a lot of work happening. So I got a parts order right here. So we're going to be unboxing that and putting some bits on. Today's plan is to get the doors on. So I've set them up on some panel stands just here. I've got to put the rubber seal in the channel here, put the hinges on with the hinge pins, do that to both doors, paint up the heads of the bolts, probably in this ruby red colour. This is a custom colour, it's not 100% the factory colour. And in a future episode I will be wet sanding and buffing this because it's not perfect. It does look good on camera, but it's not perfect. It's a bit rough. So anyway, that's a quick update on the car. So you know what? Let's get to unboxing this box. Alright, so let's have a look what we got. This is, I'm guessing, the door seal, and I've got two of those, so I'm assuming that's it. Bonnet release cable, we'll probably put that in today. We've got the tail light seals, number plate light seal, a bunch of lollies, hinge pins, and the hinge pins with the threads on it, that's for the mirrors, and that's it. So let's get some of this happening. Alright, so we're going to stick this seal on here. This is the passenger side door, left door. Then we're going to do the right one, and we're going to be using this Loctite 406, which is like a rubber adhesive. So I'll get you on time lapse and we'll get this happening. Alright, so we've just put this seal in here, which went in okay, but what we sort of learned is that you got to probably test fit it in first, then glue it, because we did a good job around here, but as soon as we got to here we realised it was too late, and we sort of squished it up a bit so it's not bunched up and we didn't have to cut it. So that'd be the only sort of thing, is we'll just put it in first. Obviously you got to match all the corners up to the right spot. There's less of corners around the A-pillar, but do that and then lift it up and glue it. so we've just finished up putting the seal in. A lot quicker going over this one than did that one once we know what we're doing. So what we're going to do now is flip it over and get some hinge pins in. So where have I put the hinge pins? So I've got to put these in here. So obviously I've got 2 threaded ones which go on the top, and the threads for the mirror, because I want mirrors on both sides. I don't know where here they are, and here are the other 2. So I'll get the hinges out there and put these on. So let's get to that. Alright, so it turns out I've just been fiddling around trying to clean these out here because there's been a lot of paint jammed in there. I've gone in with an 8mm drill bit. These are 8.05, slightly oversized. I'll see if I have any better luck trying to get them in. So I'll do those 4, and then I probably won't film it because I might just quickly charge the GoPro, and then I'll get back to you when that's done. But yeah, really got to clean it out. The drill bit's obviously not the correct size, it's slightly smaller, which is what you want because you want these to be a tight fit and not wiggle around too much. And then we'll probably shim the door and get them on. I've got the shims made up, I'll show you them later. Okay, so I've gotten the hinge pins in. A little bit of, you know, paint scratched here and there, which isn't great, but we'll touch it up. That one, you can see the threads on that. And also in the shed here, I've done this door here. Again, no thread on the bottom, thread on the top as for the mirror. So what I'm sort of deciding on now is I'll get some bolts, probably clean them up, bolt the doors on, and then paint the bolts in case I scratched it when I was doing it up. I'll paint everything afterwards, paint up everything where I've chipped. I'm not going to wet sand and buff today, that'll be another time, but there's a little chip on the front here and here when we're just putting it together. So I'll just touch up all those little bits, and also I might start putting some things in the door. I don't know, you know, like the thing there, the catch, strikers, whatever. So let's go clean up some bolts. Alright, bolts. Okay, so this is what I'll need. So these are some shims I made up. So I've got 2 of those, and they're for the driver's side door. And then I've got some bolts. So I might just quickly wire wheel all the heads and maybe chuck a bit of primer on. I don't know if it needs it, but I'll just do that anyway. Anyway, I'll quickly show you how I made these. It's simple. So what I did is, when you bolt up a beetle door, you put your threads in, right? There's a backing plate which goes in there. Anyway, so I got the backing plate and I drilled the holes out to 8mm, I think, or 8.5, something like that, which is the same as the front, and obviously ground down the little burrs. See if I can find one from the other car to show you if you don't know what I'm talking about. And then twisted it a little bit because they're not perfectly straight. There you go, if you can see in there. So that's it. So that's all I did, and I've done that twice. So these are 3mm thick, which is a bit of a thick shim, but that's sort of what it is. This car wasn't perfect, and it's not going to be, but you know, it's looked nice, and I painted it black so it sort of doesn't stand out too much. Anyway, let's clean up some of those. Alright, so as I was talking about before with these shim plates, I've just found one of the originals. You can see, you might be able to see there's a thread in there. If not, don't worry, but there is a thread in there, and obviously, you know, it's a bit burred over, I don't know what you call that. But these ones are flat, and this is flat. So that's the difference. Alright, I'm back at the Beetle. I've decided I'll just put the doors on as is and then fit them out with all the gear. So I'll put the bolts somewhere. I can't remember where I've put them right now, but they're all dried. So I'll put you on time lapse. Oh, they're the bolts. I'll put you on time lapse and let's get these doors on. I'm shimming this side. I might have to shim the bottom of that side, but I'll just be cautious. Alright, so we've gotten the doors on. So you saw us bolting that up. And then I later got latches and shimmed this all up off camera because, well, not shimmed it up, you know, aligned it. And that door gap isn't too bad. Very straight, so is that one. Door opens and closes nicely. It does drop down a little bit, but oh well. And this side isn't as great. You can see it's a bit of a triangle. It's thicker down the bottom, thinner at the top. We did have this good at one stage, but can't seem to get it like that again. Anyway, the next thing to do is I want to install this latch, and I didn't do that because I needed the cable. So now that I've got the cable, I can install the latch. And here's I have a bit of a look. You can see I've got the cover plates on, bit of wiring done here. You can see the fuse holder, speedo's in, yeah, the grills are in, ashtrays in. Here's the wiper motor. So that's a 6-volt frame with a 12-volt motor, and we just changed one rod to make it run because the 12-volt one's a little bit different. And collapsible steering column out of a later model Beetle, and all this here, narrowed 3-inch beam up the front, and it's also lowered 3 inches at the front and about 1 inch in the back, but that should come down a little bit more once the engine's in there. And I don't know if this is the final stance, I've got to work it out. We are sitting back down a bit, so the front is a little bit lifted up than it should. But yeah, so I'll do that. And I might also put the tail light holders on today. So I've got the new rubber seals for that. I've just got to find some nuts and I can get those on. So let me get some things and we'll get to it. Alright, that took its time, but the bonnet is on. I just spent those last few minutes adjusting it. There's a little... Here, I'll show you. So you can see I've gotten the puller in. So because I put the rubber seal in recently, it's made the bonnet really sit up, which I didn't like because it was a big gap. So I'll have to trim this wire back. Anyway, the wire just goes through here. I've moved this slightly that way because I just wanted the bonnet as symmetrical as possible. So this little screw here, the further you go up, the closer the bonnet goes in, and vice versa. So I had that set when I was doing the fab work, but it wasn't going in, so I screwed it all the way out. It's shut, and I tightened it up a little bit more. I could just shut it now. So it is a pretty tight gap, which is what I'm after. I don't like that big gap you see. Just before I did this, I wanted to test the shift rod. So the shift rod goes through this hole, through that hole, through the tunnel, and obviously then it goes to your shifter and then your gearbox. The thing is, I took it out because I need to replace the bushings, and I want to buy some aftermarket more solid bushings I've seen online. And the thing is, I've realized when I pulled the shift rod out, I couldn't get it past the bodywork, so I lifted the body up and then got it out. I just tried it again, I can't do the same, and the reason for that is because this is the reproduction front end. It's not perfect, so this hole is not, it should be bigger or higher up, or no, lower down actually, I think. Yeah, lower down. So that's not good. So what I'm gonna have to do is buy that shift rod thing, undo the steering column, lift the body up again, poke the shift rod straight through, and then tighten up the floor pan. But right now, I've got these tail light housings right here. So we'll get the rubbers and let's get those on. Alright, so I presume they go this way up. Because the writing goes that way. There. Don't know what that hole's for. They go that way. Okay. They do go that way up. Just like that. Yep. Alright, so a bit simpler than that actually. Okay. There, some washers. Let me just put you on time lapse. Okay, so I finished up the back. It is the next day today. So I started the day, I just put the indicators on, which was a little bit fiddly because I had to get this rubber snapped on correctly. Anyway, both indicators are on. That's the 64, the slightly wider one, first year of that bigger style, I'm pretty sure. I will have to take them off to change bulbs and maybe wiring, and maybe even wet sanding and buffing. I could probably get around it. So, but anyway, I picked out the good ones and put them on because I didn't have much to do. Anyway, there are the tail lights on. So I've got the backing plates on. They're not new. They're the old ones. I quickly scuffed them down a few weeks ago and painted them. So they're just a chrome paint just to give it a bit of shine. That's all it needs. So what I might do now is I might roll it out into the sun to get the picture for the thumbnail. And also I want to touch up a bunch of paint spots. You know, where it's chipped off, like there. Just a bunch of spots where we whacked paint off. And then when I come to wet sand and buff, that part will be done. So let's roll her on down. Alright, we've got it pushed out into the sun here. Let's mix up some paint and touch up all the imperfections. Alright everyone, so I've just put all the bits of touch-up paint on all the scratches and everything. The car is looking a lot better, you know, from a distance. Of course, you look close and you can see the hand brush paint, so it does need a wet sand and a buff in the future, which I don't have all the stuff I need for that, so that's why I'm not doing it now. It was a bit of a mess trying to do this because I had them in plastic cups, you know, sort of thin ones, and I thought that'd be alright because, you know, but anyway, turns out it sort of started to melt the paint and then made a bit of a mess over there. And then I put them in 2 cups and it just wasn't getting any better. Good thing is, there's no mess on the car, so that's all good. But anyway, I'm going to leave it here. This is the update. Sorry about being absent for a little while, but you know, it is what it is. So without further ado, I'll see you next time.
Money talks, I just translate. Dollar signs dancing on my luxury plate. Money talks, breaking lights through the fiscal gates. Hardest kissing while the world hesitates. Money talks, I just translate. Dollar signs.